Matthew Hallonbacka and Elina Niem. React Native, what accessibility professionals need to know. Alicamp. Gold sponsors ANZ, Intopia and Telstra. Silver sponsors Canva and Coles. Supporters Rumour the Design Recruiter.
Hello everyone, and greetings from Helsinki. I'm sorry we're not there in person today. We hope to be, but real life is unpredictable. My name is Matthew, and I work on our digital accessibility here at the S Group. The S Group is Finland's retail mega giant. We've got a bunch of grocery stores, gas stations, hotels, restaurants. I can't list them all. There's just too many things. And yeah, my interest is in how our services meet the needs of disabled customers.
Yes, I'm Elina. I work as a mobile engineer here in S Group as well. And I work with Finland's most popular food e-commerce mobile application, which is done with React Native.
Yes, and we are here to talk about React Native. Very briefly, if you don't know React Native is a framework for building cross-platform mobile applications. So the idea being that, well, lots of people know JavaScript. JavaScript is everywhere. If you could use JavaScript to write mobile apps, that would be better somehow. And most importantly, you could write the app once and have it run on both iOS and Android. So it's been really popular with businesses who are looking to save money or who are looking to keep the development of two different platforms in sync. And today we're going to focus a little bit on some of the challenges that you can encounter if you choose React Native to build your next mobile app. And we're going to focus specifically on 3 challenges that we've run into here, especially those that you, Elina, have come across building Ascapa.
Yes.
And how they have been difficult for us and how we, in some cases, how we worked around them, but also how you need to be aware of these if you are choosing the platform for your next mobile app.
So on to the first challenge, which is you can't always point everything from the React Native documentation. I'll give you an example of this with an external keyboard. So iOS and Android both support a Bluetooth external keyboard connection, and switch inputs and other assistive hardware usually emulates this external keyboard behavior.
And at least for me, when I do things on the web, this comes mostly automatically. If something is interactive, like a real HTML button, link, whatever, then it can receive focus. You can focus on it using the tab key, and you can activate it usually using enter or space, depending what it is. So by default, everything's there, and then we've got tools like tab index that allow you to customize that behavior if you have a good reason to.
Yeah, and React Native doesn't have this type of tab index, but the keyboard navigation should work quite the same, which means navigating with the tab key and the arrow keys. So I did my own example and own kind of trials of this, okay, how does React Native actually do this? So I started off with a simple button element with React Native, which is called touchable opacity. I also added an on-press event for it and a text inside which says buy. This part yet didn't work for external keyboard, so keyboard didn't navigate yet to my button. My next try was that I added accessible and focusable props, and I set them both to true. This again didn't yet work, even though the documentation in React Native says that accessible and focusable should kind of define whether the element is accessible or not. But yet, external keyboard wasn't navigating to my button. My last try was that I added accessibility role button, and that worked.
This is wild to me. I remember when you first told me this, it absolutely blew my mind, because at least on the web, if you change the role, that on its own doesn't change the behavior. That just changes how it's described.
Yeah. This was also a surprise for me as well, because I hadn't figured this out myself yet. But now when I did some this kind of extensive testing, I figured this out, and I made this theory around it now. But I wanted to take it a bit further now. So I took all the accessibility roles that React Native offers, which is nearly 30 different accessibility roles. There's button, links, alerts, search, etc., like many, many other. And I took all the ones that had a description of an element that should probably have some action within, like a button and link. And I went through all of them and checked if external keyboard gets an access to that element. My theory didn't really work, since not all of them worked. There were search, checkbox, radio, tab, and spin button accessibility roles that didn't work with external keyboard, even though the description said that they probably should have an action within or described that sort of element. So, which makes this a challenge is that you don't have everything in the documentation. So you kind of need to figure it out yourself. And it takes more time and effort to do manual testing when you have to do the testing both with iOS and Android.
And I guess multiple Android devices.
Yeah,
They all behave slightly differently, and
yeah,
sounds terrible.
Yeah, it is sometimes a bit difficult. So, on to the second challenge, which is not everything always works out of the box with React Native, especially when we're talking about accessibility features. And one of them is reading order with screen readers. Screen readers usually read from top to bottom and left to right. However, sometimes we do want to change this behavior to make the context more clear or whatever is the reason. For React Native, I've tried to figure out this, like how to do this. I once read this tip that just write the code in the correct order you want it to be read by the screen reader. And apparently this works with web, right?
Mostly, there's nuance, but yes, in most contexts, that's how you can do this on the web. Yes.
Yeah. Now, however, with mobile, with React Native, this isn't the case. So it doesn't always work. And React Native doesn't actually support changing the reading order at all. So now I'll give you an example of this. First of all, I went through my own phone to kind of show a few examples of this component that I've struggled with as a developer. I found screenshots from Escopet application, which is the one that I work with. Also, Zalando had this, and Rituals application. So all of them had this horizontally scrolling list, including product cards, usually used for promoting products or bringing up relevant content for the user. And these cards were in a format of, usually there's a picture, the product name, the price, maybe add to cart buttons or favorite buttons, and all of them are like side by side in a horizontal scrolling list. So after looking at these real life examples, I created my own very simplified version of it. So I created 3 products, which were banana, milk, and bread. And I created a horizontal list for this. So for each element, I created a product card, and these are presented side by side to each other. In each card, there is product image. Then below that, there's product name. And at the bottom, there's add to cart button. And after setting this all up, I kind of wanted to go through my own expectations. So what I expected the screen reader to do was that it would read first the first product card completely through. So starting from the product image, then to the product name, and then to the add to cart button. So one card as a whole, and after that, moving on to the second card. And reading through the whole second card, and at the last, it would go to the third card.
And that reflects the order that you put them in the code. So
yes.
Card with contents, next card, contents.
Yes, exactly. So based on the code, this was my expectation. And also in this way, I would guess that the context would stay a bit more clear as well. So now that my expectations are high and clear, I did some actual testing with it. And the testing did not reflect my expectations. However, it did start from the same element as I expected it to. So it did start from the first product card, that in its description. And after it did not stay in the same product card, but it moved on to the next product card, the product image, and then the last card, product image. So it read all the product cards or all product images from all the cards first. After reading the last product image from a third card, it jumped back on to the first product card and read the product name from there, and then repeated the same logic of reading all the product names from each card. And after the last card, it again jumped back to the first product card and read all the add to cart buttons. So it didn't work as I expected. It didn't follow the logic as I wrote the code with. And I don't have any way to change it. With React Native Core, at least. There is an external library that kind of helps with this. However, it doesn't yet work with Android perfectly, but it does help a bit with iOS. However, with React Native Core, this isn't possible, but I really, as a developer, I really hope that it would be, since in many cases, like I've come up with or there's many cases where I've hoped that I have some way to change it, since the natural way doesn't seem logical.
So the last challenge we want to talk about concerns the fact that React Native is open source software. A lot of companies love using open source software. It's usually free. You can dig into the code yourself. You're free to kind of audit security yourself. You can get a real deep understanding of how it works. And usually you're not tied into a big contract with a single supplier, so you're not stuck with getting sort of support and help a certain way. So there's a lot of appealing stuff about open source, but there can be some limitations as well, especially when we're talking about accessibility. And to demonstrate that here, I want to take this issue from the React Native GitHub repository. So here we've got someone, and actually I later learned this person actually works at Facebook as they're doing this. We've got someone reporting an accessibility issue, perhaps. So they're saying that this method that you can use inside the JavaScript to tell whether the device's colors are inverted works on iOS and doesn't work on Android. They also give a link to where in the Android platform's documentation you can find exactly how to access that information. So it doesn't seem like a ton of work to make that available. It just needs passing through the JavaScript engine that React Native uses under the hood. So, and this could be potentially a real accessibility barrier for some users. If some users are depending on being able to invert the colors to make the app more readable, more visible somehow, and you might need to swap in a certain kind of graphic or something like that better works in inverted colors. So this issue gets reported, and this the person creating the issue adds labels accessibility and needs triage. And a couple of weeks later, someone who seems to work at Meta at Facebook comes along and adds some more labels. They add accessibility team evaluated. So this appears to suggest that people who specialize in accessibility have looked at this issue. They haven't removed the accessibility label, so I guess they are confirming that yes, we agree this is an accessibility issue. But they also add the label good first issue. The subtext being, we want someone, and it can be a complete beginner, to come in and fix this for us. We're not planning to fix this ourselves in the short term. Quite soon after that, someone jumps in and comments, hey, I want to work on this. I haven't made any contributions before, so please point me to somewhere where I can learn how to do this, but I'm interested. And the original author of the issue comes back and gives them a link to where they can find the contributing documentation. So it looks like someone's going to work on this, and just a few weeks after the issue was first reported, someone says they're going to work on it. But actually we never hear from that person again. And over the next few years, bearing in mind this started in 2021, so like four years ago now. Over the next few years, we get maybe half a dozen more people commenting on that issue, saying, hey, I want to work on this. I'm going to fix this. And in every single case, we never hear from them again. So it looks like, and if you're looking for an issue to fix as well, it looks like people are actually actively working on this, but we never hear from any of them again. Then, all of a sudden, late last year, November of 2024, we get another comment on the issue, which now says that someone has actually made a pull request that fixes this. So they made a pull request. Within a day, someone, again, from the React Native core reviewed this. Within a week, it was merged, and it was part of the next React Native release. So this issue got fixed. This might sound like good news. It got fixed in the end. But this took 4 years, and it was never really prioritized by the people who get to work full-time on this as something worth doing. Right now, there are about 15 issues. This screenshot was taken when we wrote this a few weeks ago, but there's approximately 15 issues with the labels, mostly the label accessibility team evaluated, and a lot have labels like good first issue or help wanted. The subtext being, we, Meta, are aware of this, but we're not going to do this. And we're aware, most importantly, that this is an accessibility issue, and we're not prioritizing doing this. I don't want to speculate too much about why this is the case, but I think the main possibilities are that the complexity of building an environment you can run JavaScript apps in on mobile devices means that some of these are really hard to solve. The other possibility is that people working on it just don't want to. They just don't think that the needs of disabled users are worth their time and attention.
However, if you are stuck with React Native and you are already using it, there are some good parts of the open source of React Native. There is the large community, which means, for example, for me, in many cases, someone else has also struggled with the same issue already and possibly solved it in some kind of workaround or some other way. So there are some good parts of it, but it also means that it might not get into the core of React Native.
So in conclusion, React Native is a really popular way to build cross-platform mobile applications. The appeal of being able to write code once in JavaScript and have it work on multiple platforms is really strong, both for technical and more business-focused people. But doing this will create extra challenges if you're going to avoid creating barriers to disabled users.
One of them being that documentation isn't always clear or perfect. You kind of end up in a situation where you need to figure things out yourself and will need to use more time on testing. Also, some accessibility requirements can't be met with React Native Core only. So you might need to use external libraries or workarounds or just simply compromises on your solutions.
And where there is a real accessibility issue in the core of React Native that is causing a barrier to users, you can't rely on Meta prioritizing or fixing it. There's a good chance it will get a label like good first issue and still be open when we're talking about it 8 years from now, at least based on the current situation. So that is what we have today. We would love to hear your own experiences, try and answer any questions you have. We are going to be on the event's Slack. I'm not 100% sure about how the time difference goes. It is the middle of the night where we are, but hopefully we're awake now and ready to chat about this. But hopefully, let's see.
See you on Slack.
Yes.
Alley Camp, celebrating 10 years.